Welcome back to the Coaches Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Trey Belcher. With me, as always, looking dapper as ever, is my tag team partner, Corey Smallwood. How's it going, Corey?
Good. Got the new gear in. Like it. I like it.
Yeah, we keep it bright. We keep it peppy around here at Coaches Unscripted HQ. And with us today is one of the most influential people in the fitness industry and someone who has been tremendously influential in my personal career and even this podcast. A lot of this podcast was formed in the back of his Tesla, and he doesn't even know it. The general manager of Perform Better, Chris Poirier. Welcome in, Chris.
Trey, thank you very much. Those are some very kind words. And Corey, you are looking dapper today. I love that. I love that shirt.
That's bright. It's bright.
In all seriousness, that is the absolute truth. How this thing started, it really was born at speaker school 2 years ago, and we rode around, Corey and I, in the back of the Tesla with you and Tom. That's when Corey and I met. And then fast forward to the summit in Providence in 23, we were doing an interview, and at the end, Ed said to us, "Hey, you guys should start a podcast." And then we tabled it for a year and a half. And
it was marinating.
Yep.
Well, usually they say something that starts in the backseat of a car. It's usually you're not going to follow with a podcast. But, hey, I like which way you went with it, though.
Well, in that car was you, the two of us, and Tom Plummer. So no telling what may come out of that car.
That's right. 9 months later, this is what we got.
Yeah.
That must have been a fun conversation.
Yeah, but that just goes to show how, in a small way, a microcosm of how influential you've been to everybody in this industry and in our little niche, especially. And we're coming up on Summit season. I definitely want to discuss all things Summit, but just know how much you are appreciated here. And it extends far beyond the Coaches Unscripted podcast for how much you've done for everybody in this business.
Thanks, Trey. I really appreciate that. That's very kind words. I really don't agree with you on that whole thing because that's just way overwhelming, but I appreciate that, though.
Well, anybody that knows you would expect you to say those words, and that's totally understandable. That's just the kind of guy you are. We're coming up on Summit season. What are you looking forward to this year?
Well, we're looking to get back numbers this year. This is the one thing that we're making a really big play on this year. One thing we realized about the summits is we have a lot more fun when we fill the house, when there's more people in them. That's by far is always what we look forward to. We like a lot of people in there. Crowds have been obviously pre-COVID. We're constantly growing every year, and then we hit that stumbling hurdle at COVID, which sort of put everything on pause for a little bit. And the crowd or the returnees are a little slow coming back, but I have a feeling this year is going to be the year that we're going to make a big jump to get people back at it.
Yeah. And I have two questions for you, Chris. One is an easy one. How long have the summits been going on? When did they get started? And two is, how did they come about? Like, what was the brainchild behind putting 100, now up to 1,000 coaches and owners and operators in a room and getting some of the best presenters together for them to learn from Perform Better, which is an equipment company?
I wish there was some very, very creative reasoning behind that, Corey, but to tell you the truth, it was very simple. When we first started out back in 92, we started out with an educator, Vern Gambetta, who was a consultant of ours. So we hired him for our consultant to speak at X amount of shows for us during the year. We would put him into different conferences. We put him into NSCA, IDEA. We'd put him all across into different areas to try to fill a speaker role. But obviously we were trying to, back then in 92, we were on this big kick of functional training. So we were trying to promote functional training. And what is functional training? And obviously not the circus act that it sort of towards the late 90s turned into a little bit. But we sort of wanted to keep it grounded and explain what it was. So we thought it was necessary to hire a consultant to speak at different conferences. And somewhere around 96, 97, after about 4 or 5 years of putting him into all these different conferences, I just thought it was, like I said, it was very simple, no algorithm. Basically, the philosophy was behind it was, why don't we just do our own? Why we have the speaker. Why don't we just get a couple more consultants and sort of create the entire agenda, create what everything, create the topics or at least control what the topics would be. And so as we grew, and Mike Boyle started on as a consultant as well at that right before then. And we wanted to do stuff with Mike. And so as we were starting to grow it, we wanted to create sort of these one-day seminars. But more importantly, Corey, is we wanted to do more hands-on stuff, because there was always every seminar we were going to, every seminar we went to or had these guys at, it was all lecture-based. There was no really hands-on. And people used to ask the question, well, I get it through theory, but I want to see it in practice. And so we started to create these learn by doing seminars where we do lectures in the morning, and then we would do the hands-ons in the afternoon, which they would go through it. And they basically started to be popular. I mean, we didn't, a very first one we did, we had over 100 attendees at. We just, the next year we grew to 3 more cities, and it went from 100 to 150. And then as we just kept building, we just kept growing. So after about 5 years of growing these one days, we grew them to like 10 around the country. We were getting between 200 and 300 attendees showing up at them. We were like, what? Like, these are great with 3 or 4 speakers. These are great events. Why don't we just do something that's like, I had this always big dream of doing like this 3-day event where we'd bring people in for 3 days, and we'd have 15 to 20 presenters. So we just decided to put it together. We decided to put together that basically based off of the one-day learn by doings, we started to create this whole 3-day event of doing summits where we'd have 4 rooms going on at once, not just one room like the one days that we did. So it developed off of the one days, but it grew as the popularity grew to them.
So when you started, did you have any idea that it would grow as big as it did?
Not at all. Not at all. In all honesty, we were just thinking, all right, we're going to do this one local show in Boston. And then we did this one local summit in Providence. And then it was like, okay, a couple of years later, let's add another city. Let's go out. We know California is a great location for our one days. And we knew the summits that we weren't getting a lot of people come. Most of our people that were attending the summits, 80% of them were basically within driving range, within a 5-hour drive. So we're like, okay, let's maybe we do have enough people. Let's do one out on the West Coast. So then we did, 2 years later, we did one as the one in Providence was growing. And then like, it was the same thing. It was the same birth of Providence that was out in California. And then 2 years later after that, we started to add Chicago in. And then we were getting a little crazy. And somewhere about 10 years later, we added Orlando in to make it 4 summits. So it was, I guess we were a glutton for punishment, because we just wanted to keep on doing seminars. But in all honesty, we really do seminars because we love to do education. I mean, for us and our staff and our team, we love being at them. We love being around the attendees, and a lot of these attendees became very close friends to us, and not, they were clients, but they were friends. And it sort of became a way to see our customers once a year, or see them, at a different event or a different educational event for us. So it sort of became part of who we were, even though, it relatively in such a short time, they grew pretty quickly.
And that's what's, I think, is amazing about these summits is that, there's 40 or 50 experts. I mean, they're inventors of equipment. They are some of the best minds in the industry. They're gym owners and operators. Like you have cultivated and brought together so many of the industry's best to learn from, and you got them all in one place. So, I've been attending these, as a gym owner operator myself, as a trainer. And I think it's very important that going from the equipment side of it to the education side of it, especially in this day and age, when I can just go on YouTube and look up kettlebell swings, I can also watch a Bruce Lee movie, but that doesn't make me a martial artist, So like getting the hands-on application, not just the how and why behind it, but the direct application into your business, I think it's just nobody else is doing that. And that shows how forward thinking you guys are as an organization.
Yeah. Well, the way you say it, makes it look, a lot different than how I have ever envisioned it. You know what I mean? It just worked. It was something that we just wanted to do. And we knew when we did the first one that we had a lot of success off of it. We were able to we were able to feature certain presenters and show them to the world, ones that we thought that were great, that we thought there was something worth saying, or what they were saying had some value, and we wanted to bring these people to the masses, so it's funny you say that, because the first time I heard Mike Boyle ever speak was at a conference in my first year in this. It was 94. I think it was 2 years up performed, but it was 2 years, and he was speaking at a conference in Boston. And I was mesmerized by him. So I was like, I got to get him on this seminar. And so usually now, even today when I go to conferences, I go and look and listen to presenters that I really want to hear and listen to. But there's something that I've always said, Corey, that I always say, and I still say it to this day at the seminars, is that, I truly believe our seminars are a great way. It's a great form of networking. There's some great business minds. There's some great trainers and coaches, sharing of ideas. And that's really, if you tell me, what have we created this education? I'm like, no, we've sort of created this educational networking opportunity. And it's not just the people that are on the stage. It's the people who are sitting in the seats. And that's shown basically true, is when we did the summits this year, we went through the staff and the presenters. Over half the staff that are speaking at this year's summits were attendees at one time at a one day or at a summit. So it's so true that there is, the next people are sitting out listening to an event, and there's going to be something or someone that's going to get them motivated, that they're going to want to speak. Or that they're going to want to share their ideas, or something that they believe that, that they've either come up with, or a training philosophy, or whatever you have it, that, that they need to get that information out. And that's sort of what we want to do, is we sort of want to get information out to everyone and let people discuss it, let people handle it, let people network with it. Fortunately, we've been very, very successful at doing that. And again, it's funny, I laugh because they have grown, but it's really, I never envisioned to what they would grow to. And in 2019, we ended up, because we went on from, running the NFBA, Corey, which very well of, and we went to doing, 10 business seminars, to then we were doing FMS workshops, and we were starting to put those on as well. So there was one time, that we put on over like 47 shows in 1 year, 47 conferences that we put on, and had over 5,200 attendees at them, unique attendees at them. So it was like, when I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that was mind blowing that we did that, because I never envisioned that they would grow to that much. It was just, we're having so much fun doing it. We just wanted to keep growing, and we wanted to, instead of doing it 3 weekends or 1 week in a summer, we wanted to do it like every other weekend.
Well, one thing that has always struck me, and even with the growth, it always feels like a family atmosphere. And I started coming to shows in 2018, so I'm late to the party. But even as someone who is just starting out, and I have my association with FMS, so I had a way in that with people that you already knew, but you're coming up to me asking me, how was it? What can we do better? What do you think? And from my perspective, I'm thinking, this guy knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for years and years, but he's still asking me how he can improve. And I think that speaks to A, the networking and the family atmosphere, but B, just how there's always a desire to get better and to make it more of a family atmosphere and improve the networking. So that has always struck me about you personally, and how that permeates all facets of all the summits.
Thanks, Trey. I appreciate that. It's funny. It's true. I don't think I've had a single idea or a change at how we did them. Most of the changes in how we've developed these summits over the years, or all these different seminars, was feedback from attendees. Like it was obviously, you're going to get all of the different feedback, you know what I mean, when you get to a seminar, which is, hey, I throw that out there. I really want to hear what the different feedback is. Sometimes I don't want to hear like, maybe we need more coffee later in the day or something like that, but I'd rather hear like what speaker we should have coming in, or what topic that they would have, or maybe something to change it, or do this type of room or something like that. Those are the ones I hear, but I value everyone's feedback that they give. And really, like I said, every change we made, which we've made a ton of changes over the years with them, they've all come from outside of the office. All from attendees, just sharing of ideas of things that they would like to see, or what they wanted to hear, or just different things like that.
And it's the networking, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it is so big. I mean, Trey and I met at the Perform Better headquarters at a speaker school. So many of my now friends in the industry, I met they're either presenters and they make themselves so available to the attendees. You go see Tony Robbins speak and you're going to have to pay 10 grand to get a picture with them. Like, that's not these guys. These guys are there to move guys and gals. Now we're getting more women speaking on the circuit as well, but their true intention is to make everyone better, to improve and move the industry forward. And you have a way every year of picking these people that just are incredible presenters.
Well, there's so many incredible ones out there. The only thing I wish, and it's funny, when we had to drop Orlando this year, Corey, one of the, my hardest feeling was that we had to drop presenters, like, because I couldn't, like, there's so many out there. I wish we could do an endless amount, because there's so many great presenters out there. And then when you're forced with only having a limited amount of seminars, it sort of cuts back on how many presenters you can get into them and how many you can get coming back. So, that was, it wasn't the fact that it was, I always enjoyed going down to Orlando for that summit. We had to cut it out. It was more or less that I was so upset that I couldn't bring in, 20 new speakers or bring back, all the presenters that we could have, from before. So those are the things that we like to do. And you're right. It's, obviously we built them to share ideas, and that's what we really, I think that's the value of it. And when you said there's, relationships that made, like you two, I mean, you two obviously have become business partners and doing a podcast together, but there's like dozens of business partners that we have in business that have come out that met at the summits. There's relationships that go back. There's marriages. I believe there's like 4 marriages from people that met. I think about 4 or 5 years ago, we had our first kid come, first kid attended the summit in Long Beach, from mom and dad meeting, 2 different trainers coming from different sides of the country, meeting at it. And obviously in networking. That's the definition of networking right there, huh?
Yeah.
But it's I'm glad to see that, because it's what we really do them for. I mean, it's a great feeling to see all the relationships that have developed from it, and the sharing of ideas, but also the bouncing business ideas off of each other. And getting ideas and what's working and what's not working. And in all honesty, we want everybody to be successful. That's, in this industry, we want everyone to be as successful as possible. I mean, there's room for success for everybody.
And that's one thing you have to experience. You can't put that in a brochure. That's why we really wanted to have you on this podcast, is to share that, because it's impossible to understand just what you're going to learn and what you're going to get to do, but the people that you're going to meet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And Corey, you and I have talked about this before, but we have that, we have, the seminars that the summits we started last year, that Q&A room, which basically it's a networking room. It's a 75-minute session where you can go sit at a round table with one of the presenters and have them to yourself or with a couple other people for 75 minutes and just throw everything at them. Yeah. Ask questions, learn about them, what's going on, share some ideas. Maybe you have something that you want to share with him, to see that there could be something. So I couldn't call it a networking room because nobody would ever go into it. So we had to call it a Q&A room just so we could get people in. And it's funny, the very first one we did down in Orlando last year, it was the Friday morning after we started. There was Gray and Lee did the keynote the day before. So Gray and Lee were inside the Q&A room with that very first session. And Greg Rose was in there. He came early and he hopped in there with him. And 2 people came out of the room. It was the very first one we did. And I asked them, how was it? And they 3 of them looked at me and they said, that right there was that 75 minutes was worth the price of admission of coming to the summits. Thank you for doing that. So I knew right away that after the first session that it was going to be a success if people utilized it, and so that was rewarding to feel that way. But again, it's that's something that there's not many seminars that do that. And I always felt, why not? Why not have a room where people can go find out more about the presenter, can ask those questions they don't want to ask in front of 200, 300, 400 people.
Yeah. And, you talk about everyone sharing in success. You can always look into the back of a room, no matter who's speaking, and see the other speakers watching their colleagues speak, and the support that goes from the top down, from you and Rob and Aaron and all the staff to the speakers and to the attendees. That's what I was meaning when I was saying it's a family atmosphere.
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that separates the Perform Better Summits from any other organization.
Yeah, no, Trey, it's funny. I noticed that years ago, at our first summit was back in 22, and as I'm looking around, I'm going in, I think we had 18 speakers at the first one, and Mike Boyle was speaking for us for about 5 years then, doing the one days. And, it's funny, he's going to all the different rooms because I wanted to hear a little bit of all the presenters. And every single session when he wasn't speaking, Mike was in a room with a notebook, just taking notes of listening to others speak. And I'm like, well, here's a guy that I think's one of the top of in his game, that has the answers to a lot of things. And here he is taking notes and listening and learning from the other presenters. So yeah, it's amazing that we've noticed that. And I've seen that with everybody. I've seen whatever the presenter, I've always seen him somewhere else into a session learning, because again, we all want to be better. And I think in our industry, the only way we're going to get better is by learning. We're going to learn from others. We're going to learn from mistakes. And I think that's the key of it, is learning from others' mistakes is going to save people in this industry so much money.
Yeah. Trial and error is very expensive.
It sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is.
So when they get, I just saw this off to the side here. Everybody should have gotten this in their mailbox. When people that have been to the summits in the past, they kind of know what they're getting involved in. But somebody that's watching this that have never been to a Perform Better Summit, they get this, they open it up. First of all, they got to figure out, are they coming to Providence, Long Beach, or Chicago? What would be some best tips for them to navigate? How do they set up their 2.5 days? Because you can look at this and to somebody that's never been to one, might be a little overwhelming to them.
Yeah, that's always it's always the fun thing on starting on a Friday morning to see everyone with the schedule out, looking of where I'm going to go and who and talking to each other like about this one and that one, and
you go there, I'll go there.
Exactly. And how I've always answered, I've been pretty consistent on this for the last 20 years, is I've always said that, first of all, go to the name people that you have heard that you basically wanted to see. Don't miss the people that you've heard a little bit about them. You've heard some good things. You want to go see. You may not know them. You may not have never heard them before, but go see some of those that you want to see. And then second, I always say is, it's go by topic. What topic interests you? What is more relevant to you? If you're a business owner, you may want to go to some of the business ones. If you're a physical therapist, you may want to go to some more of the rehab ones, but not totally, and then the third thing I always tell people to do is always go to more lectures. I think you can get a little bit more out of a lecture. I tell them to go to the hands-on where they need that extra. They just need a little bit more information on that. But if you want to get the most out of the presenter, go listen to his lecture, because they're going to give you everything in the lecture. The hands-on, you may only get about 15% of what they talk about in the hands-on. You may only get 15% of what they talk about in the lecture.
Yeah, the lecture is learn and then go apply it. You take all this information, and now we'll show you how to use the sandbag to do that, or how to.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. You've been doing it for a long time. What are some of your favorite stories from the summits? It can be funny. It can be, the floor is yours.
I can't tell some of my favorite stories. I can tell you some stories, but not my favorite one.
And I can bleep out any names to protect the innocent and or guilty.
God, we've had everything from, and I'm not even going to mention names, but we've had a presenter bring his mic turned on into the bathroom out in Long Beach while he was in the bathroom talking to everyone. So everyone's in the room, including me, of his bathroom conversation that's going on. So that probably was one of my cleanest, maybe not my all-time favorite one, but my cleanest one that I can say. That was a good story. Geez, what else are some of the other ones? We've had so many things happen. We've had weddings going on at the convention centers in which we've had our seminars going on, and We got people in shorts and t-shirts, and then the next room over, we have people in tuxes and all dressed up. There's always something interesting that happens at each one. Nothing that's a story that's, that you probably never heard before, but we had some fun ones. The good ones, unfortunately, I can't say, but I will tell you on our next cold glass of beer.
Fair.
And speaking of cold glass of beer, one of the things about the summit that I also think is value beyond what anybody is going to pay to attend is the social afterwards that you guys put on, where the presenters come out and you just get to mingle with them. And it takes people, like, growing up in this industry, growing up, I was obviously an adult, but as I was coming through the industry, there were people that you just kind of had on that pedestal that you loved learning from, the Tom Plummer and Dan John and Martin Rooney and some of those guys. But to see them actually there and you're having a great conversation with them, it makes them real. And I think that is very powerful. That comes from the social.
Yeah. And Corey, you know this very well as being a presenter for us for a couple of years. Is there's something that, there's one thing that I never wanted the summits to be was uptight. I didn't want the presenters to speak and then go hide their room. One of the things I wanted presenters to be is, and we told everyone, is wanted to be open to the attendees and be around to answer questions. This isn't a place for you just to go give your talk and then hop on a plane and then just leave right afterwards. We want you to at least spend a couple days there, or spend a night that you're going to be around, and you can be around in the session so people can come up to you and ask you questions. I think the majority of people have gotten that. I think probably the ones that didn't get it, Corey, are probably no longer presenting for us. Are no longer presenting for us, which reminded me of another story, which was a classic story. So we did have one presenter on years ago. This was a long time. This is probably about 15, 18 years ago, that before the seminar went on, this happened at a one day. This was at one of our one days. But before the one day, when we came into the room, he set up a table behind, what our screens are like, these big stand-up screens. Well, we had the screen over to the side set up on an angle, but there was room from the wall behind it where you could stand behind. Well, one of the speakers, his first time ever speaking for us, was speaking for us at this conference. I've never heard him before. I've talked to him for a few years. He kept trying to get on to speak, and I was like, all right. He had some really good information. I liked what he was talking about. I liked his topic, and I was like, all right, let me put him on. So we put him on. So at this particular place, he sets up behind the screen a table, so you can't see him in the thing. He's behind the screen. Now, he was the third presenter going off. He's behind there working on his presentation. Now, this is the morning of. He's working on his presentation from the very first presenter going on. No one knows he's behind there but me, because I've seen him, but he never has stepped out or has come out. Second presenter comes on. He's out. The second presenter's done. I go behind to look at him, and I say, hey, you're on next. We got 10 minutes to switch your computer over. So he knew what time it was. He knew we were running a little late. We were trying to take a quick break. Obviously, he can hear everything in the room because he's literally sitting right behind the screen. And so we come on. It's 10 minutes of going by. He's supposed to start his session, I believe, at like 10:30. It's now 10:35. He's still back there. And now the stubborn Frenchman that I am, like, I've already told him twice. I'm like, I'm not going to ask him again. He's going to sit behind there. And then I'm thinking myself, all right. So I went out to the hallway, and Mike Boyle was going to go fourth. So I was like, Mike, do you mind going right now? Like, can I put you up? And can you speak for 2 hours? Can you do the full 2 sessions? I'm not even going to put them on. Like, I think people want to hear you. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've asked him 3 times already. Like, let's get his computer on. And he's not coming on. Sure enough, Mike comes on, and we're starting to set up Mike, and I make the announcement that we're going to go Mike next. He finally comes out after hearing that. I'll come up. Now he's 10 minutes already late. So anyways, he goes with his presentation. It was a decent presentation. It wasn't a bad presentation. He had some good information. Now it's the same person when he told me what, as Corey is, I always ask the question, what equipment do you need for your hands-on session in the afternoon so we can bring it? He told me he didn't need anything. And I asked him 3 times, like weeks before, you sure you don't need anything? Don't need anything. We're good. So we get to the afternoon session. So we break for lunch. He does his thing. I cut him short. He only delivers half his presentation because he's already 10, 15 minutes late into it. He finally finishes. We go on, we break for lunch. We come back to the hands-on sessions in the afternoon. And all of a sudden, every equipment that we had for the 3 other speakers is all been taken. He grabbed everything and brought it over to his session. And I'm like, what are you doing? You told me you didn't need anything. Now we don't have anything for these guys. And so we're trying to switch it around. It was a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare. It was just a funny thing that it's a story that I could tell later. But it was one of those interesting one that I've never had a presenter go rogue on me during an event. Like, he not want to come out and speak during his time. Like, I just never like, you're up and not move.
Yeah. And
that was a strange one.
Part of being a professional at what you do with these summits, I ran an organization that did summits on a much smaller scale, but the attendees don't understand what all it takes to put one of these 3-day summits on and to organize all the schedules of the presenters getting in and collecting all of their bios. Like, there's so much that you guys do to make this just come off seamlessly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, Corey, because a lot of people say that, it says that. And again, I'm not playing it that it's not really hard work, but it's when you've done them for so long, you sort of know, like, you know exactly what needs to be done. It's almost like there's a system to it that just fills itself in. So it's for doing it so long, it's a process that's a lot easier now than what it was doing it 25 years ago when we started putting them together. So I know it's a lot of work, but it never seems like a lot of work because it's always worth it at the end. It's always worth it up until, till the events are over. And then when the events are over, we usually make Providence our last summit. And right after that last one in Providence, we're sort of sad that, all right, we're not going to have one for another year. It's like, this is it, the end of the summit. And it's like, well, geez, I wish we could have like 3 or 4 more, in the fall, or keep doing these, which is hence what we ended up doing with other seminars, is taking on more seminars to keep them going. That's just how much we like putting them on and doing them.
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah, and we had Rob and Aaron on a couple months ago, and they talked about how so many presenters or even attendees have become friends and will come early and hang out or stay late and hang out, and how it's become more than just a 3-day event. And even though it's a lot of early mornings and long nights for everybody, especially for you guys, it's still, for the time that everybody's there, it's a party that you don't want to end.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And even as an owner operator myself, I go to Providence virtually every year, but this year I'm also going to go to Chicago as an attendee because there are people at the Chicago, I'll get to see Mark Liebert and Nick Winkleman and some of the people and Billy, and I'll see them there that I won't get to see in Providence. And so I'm trying to make my business the best that it can, trying to make my staff the best that it can. So I'm there to learn as well.
Yeah, Corey, you're the epitome of the coach, business owner that wants to keep improving. I mean, I don't think there's been a year that you've missed it in a long time. In some years, you've even went to 2.
Yeah,
you brought your team to 2 of them. Like it was like, yeah, it's funny you say that, but you're right. We've created a lot of friendships, and it's funny. Just like I think, like everyone, most of my friends, when you work the hours that we do here, and most of our friends are more work friends. You know what I mean? It's business relationship friends. Like, 'cause I'm around them more than I'm around my friends from around town or my friends from school. Like I spend my weeks with these people. So it's funny how you say that, but yeah, you have your whole crew, and there's so many summits that we love to go to because so many people come back that we get to see them again. We get to see people, like there's people in Long Beach that have been coming for years, really good friends, and we get to see them at that event every year. And it's just great getting out there to see them, hanging out with them, going to dinner. And obviously it's enjoying the weekend of the summit.
And I think if you could speak on it, Chris, how and why would somebody go to a summit when there are so many other ways? And we asked Lee this question, we've asked some of the other people on our podcast, like when they can go to YouTube and learn everything that they ever wanted to know about a kettlebell, or, there's so much knowledge at their fingertips now. And everybody is a guru and everybody is an expert. Why the summit?
You still think that that key component is learning through networking. I think that really plays, and it's not just networking of making a friend or relationship with someone. It's more of learning more about what they do. And I truly mean that I said a little earlier that you're going to learn from the person sitting next to you, just by sharing ideas. So I think that's one of the things that you can't get on YouTube. You can't do on a webinar. You can't get that asking questions, or when someone says something, you're talking to the person sitting next to you and trying to get a different idea of how they perceived it or what they took that meant. You know what I mean? Because when you're watching it, it's only you perceiving it. You're not asking a question about anything. You're not, it's just how you're perceiving it, not how maybe somebody else is perceiving it, or even how the presenter wanted it to be perceived. You could be reading it completely differently than somebody next to you. So I think there's more group learning that goes on during it. And we see this all the time in the hands-ons. And that's why the hands-ons are great, is because people, when they're working in their little groups, there's people coaching within their groups, or whether it's little technique things that people are picking up from somebody that's with them in that group that the presenter may not be noticing because it's a class of 200-300 people in there that can't see everybody. So it's people working together. And that's some of the greatest things, is when we see that, it's like, this is perfect. That's how we envision it, is that people, when we get to the hands-on, people are working with each other, or people are talking to each other, sharing those ideas. So that's sort of has been a big part of it. It's one that I think that if you're not going to a live event, I think that's something that you're really missing. You may get some of the information, but I don't think you're going to truly understand it, without doing it, being around people that are giving you different ideas or seeing it differently.
So we talk about the family atmosphere for the summits. Give us a plug for the summits, and then we're getting ready to pivot and talk a little bit more about some awesome personal things you got going on.
So a little more plug about the summit. Attendance so far at the date right now is up, Trey. We've got 3 great ones planned in Chicago, Long Beach, and Providence. We got some great presenters coming on. One of the things we did this year too is that Thursday afternoon, and this is a little different, is instead of a keynote, instead of doing sessions on Thursday afternoon, what we did for Thursday is we put in 3 business talks. So we started our business talks all on Thursday afternoon. No hands-on, just 3 lecture talks. All are business, all going to be in the realm of business. So it has to do with a business. And that's come from some feedback that I've gotten, some business owners that said, I come Friday, I don't spend the weekend, my team's here on the weekend, but I just try to come get some of the business talks or some of the ones that's more relates to me. So I was like, well, maybe if we put the business talks on Thursday, we'll get you to come in a little bit early. We'll put a couple in on Friday too, to sprinkle in there, but we'll get the owners, the ones that really want to hear the business talks, come in early to listen to those. So that's something new. Again, I don't know how it's going to go. Hopefully it's, the feedback's been great so far on it. People who have called me about it and mentioned about that, saying they're happy to see all the business talks are on Thursday, that they can come in Thursday afternoon for those. But we'll soon see. That's something new. We're going to continue, obviously, that roundtable again, or that Q&A session, or that networking room. I may call it a networking room this year, but we'll continue that with that. And we have 15 new presenters on the list. So we got 15 new presenters speaking for the first time at Perform Better Summits, which I'm excited to hear. Most of them I've heard before, or I've seen them speak. A bunch that went through the speaker school that I had the pleasure of listening to. So we got a couple of them coming through. So it's going to be an exciting year.
A lot of people may not know this about you, but back in your heyday, you were a Division I football player, and now your son, same, and he has gotten some big news coming out of, we had the NFL draft last weekend. Coming out of that, he's got some big news. You want to share with us?
Well, he's got a lot of hurdles to climb, and then I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse a little bit, but he got a couple invites to rookie mini camps. So fortunately, this week he got those calls Saturday night right after the draft. He's going out to the Ravens this weekend, and then the following weekend he's in New York. I'm hoping he doesn't. I'm hoping that while he's at the Ravens, that they'll like what he's doing, they'll like how he looks, and hopefully want to sign him then to a free agent contract. But he's got a lot of work to do, but it's been an exciting weekend. I mean, I guess when your son goes away to college and he's going to be playing sports and gets a scholarship, he's going to do well. And, playing myself, I sort of know the realistic end of it. I know what it takes, to how hard it is to get to the next level in football. And, I never really envisioned that he would develop. I knew he was a good athlete in high school. I knew he was, when he got into college, I knew he was going to do well there. You just never really envisioned that he's going to keep on growing, and literally, I mean, he kept on growing. He's unlike me, who was a running back. He's an offensive lineman. So we got two different body types. He's 6'4", I'm 5'10".
It's hysterical watching you two stand next to each other.
May need a blood test on that someday, but not right now. Not right now.
Chris stands behind him. You can't see Chris at all.
But we're very fortunate to get the opportunity, Trey. But he does have a lot of hurdles, and he knows, he's realistic. He's a smart kid. He's got his master's, he's got an MBA. So he's a really smart kid. He's going to have a bright future no matter what in the business world. But this is something that, that he wanted to try. He felt that, he wanted to work for it. And it's fun seeing him on that quest over the last 3 months, get ready for it and train for it, that, he's made a big commitment. He's made a big commitment to train, 6 days a week for the last 4 months, 5 months now, getting ready. Obviously he's trained before that, but preparing for this next level.
Anybody that's played any athletics at no matter what level, you understand the sacrifices that it takes. And you also understand how difficult it is to even get to the level that he's at, to have the opportunity to play professional sports. Yeah. So regardless of what happens, it's still an awesome thing, especially for a parent. Anybody that's got kids, just to watch your kid have an opportunity to live his dream, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And
100%.
Even if he doesn't make it to the next level, if he's successful in life and you've raised a well-adjusted child, then you've done really well. All parents can appreciate the opportunities that he has, the sacrifices that he's made, and from a parent's perspective, how fun it is to be able to watch him or her do what they want to do.
Yeah, no, it has been fun. It's been well said too, but it's been a great trip, especially watching my sons play. Two of my sons played sports and very competitively, and watching them play, it's so much fun to watch your kids play. It's just a different type of feeling. And you can always see, like, before you have kids and you're playing or you're involved in the sports, you're always saying, I'm never going to be that parent. And sure enough, you end up being that parent, going nuts in the stands. And hopefully I didn't go too nuts in the stands over that, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and I know his road hopefully it's got more of a road to go down. But I know he's almost at the very end of that road. And it'll be sad, obviously, to see him done. And hopefully he can continue down it. And he's got a little bit more left in him. But if he doesn't, it's been a well-traveled road, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing like it. And you talk about being that parent. We had Dr. Rob Bell on a couple weeks ago talking about that. My son is 11. He's playing travel baseball now, and I'm the intense one. And yesterday, same thing. My wife has to say, you got to go down the right field line. I can't listen to you anymore.
I've gotten that call a couple times.
Yeah.
You got to go sit somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah. Just go.
Too funny.
Yeah. So when are the summits this year? We didn't get the dates.
Yes. I'm sorry. Chicago. We're going to kick off with Chicago. That one's June 12th. Through the 14th. Then we're back in Long Beach. We did a hiatus to LA for 1 year. Long Beach Convention Center is a great place for an event, but it's tough to book that place. Yeah. It always fills up before they allow us to even reserve a date. But that one is July. That's 17th through the 19th. And then we're going to wrap it up in Providence, Rhode Island on August 14th through the 16th. So they're roughly all about a month apart, starting in June, middle of the months. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to a great time with, especially that first one in Chicago, which looks like the numbers are about 25% up on that so far.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know we talk about it all the time, Corey and I. We're looking forward to it. We can't wait to see all our friends and all of you guys, just to be able to reconnect and share in the experiences with everybody. And I always tell Rob and Aaron, we joke about this, except for last year, they keep the party going until everything shuts down. And as people slough off at every half hour to hour increment, they look at me and they say, "You in?" And I said, "I'm in as long as y'all are." So
that's one of those that you go to it. You're going to leave the summit a better coach, a better operator, a better owner than when you went there. I come back and my members are very nervous when I go away to a summit because they come back and go, well, what's he going to put us through this time? And a lot of times it's less is more. Now it's becoming, let's simplify this, figure out what is the best, because it became the wild, wild west, as you alluded to. What was functional training? It became a circus act there at the end. And now it's how to bring it back together. And your not just your team, but the presenters that you bring in do a very good job of that.
Yeah. And I think, Corey, there's one more thing to add into that is hopefully you come back obviously with everything you said, but you come back with a few more names in your Rolodex that you can reach out to when you have that question that you need to get answered by a couple different people, or reach out for help in the business, or if there's something you're battling with or trying to figure out a concept or something, that you can reach out to that person. So that's always the part too, that you're taking back with you some names and some people that you met that you can truly go back to and ask questions with.
And for all of you young coaches listening, a Rolodex was a paper version. The paper version of LinkedIn.
Corey,
don't do it.
This was my original, and I will never ever lose this, of my original
your contact
Rolodex
list.
book.
Yeah.
My contact list. Yes, every page is basically filled in to the max.
Well done.
I lived off of this.
That's right.
And I still have it. I still have it when I need to, because somewhere along the lines I wasn't able to get every single one of them into my phone.
Yeah. That's gold.
Yeah. What is a Rolodex? Yeah, that's
well, but that just goes to show how important those connections were and still are to you. And I've connected with so many people through the summits. So many of the people that have been on this podcast, I have watched speak, present. I've gone through the hands-ons. It has totally changed the way I look at things. And you talk about the business talks. When I first started going to the summits, I was going for the hands-ons and to learn the new skills. And then as I've progressed through my career, now it is more about the business talks. So I think those people that continue coming year after year, those things change, and you're seeking out different speakers for the different information, and your perspective changes. That growth in your own business can mirror your growth through the summits and through your networking, and there's so many things that come along with it.
It's been a fun ride, and I cannot think of, this is going into my 34th year, actually soon to be my 35th. I just can't think of what the last 35 years would have been if we didn't do 26 years of it being education, or 27 years of it being education. It's been such a part of what we do and what our MO is. And, it's been a pleasure to do it. It's been a pleasure to meet guys like you and Corey and relationship with you guys. And it's just been a really, really fun ride. And we've had a blast.
Amen. Well, I don't think there's any way to sum it up any better.
Well, yeah, we can tell everybody to go to Providence and learn all about AI. That is going to be the top talk. That's going to be packed. Awesome. Great.
There it is.
Who's giving
Corey,
that talk?
You're gonna be closing down that day on Friday night at 4:45 to 6 o'clock, right before the social.
Right out to the social.
Right out to the social, right after Corey gives his AI. That's right.
Perfect.
Hey, Corey, that's going to be the world. In 10 years from now, people are going to be looking back at that and saying, "Yeah, why didn't I go to Corey's presentation and learn about it, and get ahead of the curve, rather than now catching up to everybody else?"
That's part of the reason why I said, Corey, we got to do this thing together, because I get to sit here and learn from him every day. It really is part of the networking. I called Griff and said, "Who do I need to meet?" He said, "You need to meet Corey." That sums it all up. That's the Perform Better story.
That's it.
Well, we thank you for joining us on the Coaches Unscripted podcast. We hope today's stories have inspired and empowered you. Please connect with us on Instagram at Coaches Unscripted Podcast. Like, follow, comment, and share to continue the conversation and stay updated on future episodes. Follow Perform Better at Perform_Better. Chris, we thank you so much for joining us. You're the best.
Thanks, Trey.
Yeah, for Chris Poirier, Corey Smallwood, I'm Trey Belcher. Keep coaching from the heart and building strong communities.
Thanks, guys.